Welcome to the next module. In this module, we will be looking at Indian Arctic activities. So, the Indian Arctic activities are mainly initiated and being carried out by Ministry of Earth Sciences. So, this is the organizational structure of Ministry of Earth Sciences. There is Earth System Science Organization is just below that. And there is Indian Meteorological Department, that is IMD Delhi, then National Center for Medium Range Weather Forecasting at Noida, then Center for Marine Living Resources and Ecology, National Center for Seismology, National Center for Coastal Research, these are all the other organizations, and also National Center for Polar and Ocean Research. It's India's premier R&D organization responsible for the country's research activities in the polar and southern ocean realms. Then Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services is present in Hyderabad. Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology is in Pune. National Institute of Ocean Technology NIOT is in Chennai. National Center for Earth Science Studies is there in Trivandrum. So there are 2 subordinate offices, 3 attached offices and 5 autonomous bodies. These are there under the Ministry of Earth Sciences. Polar Science and Cryosphere Research, which is called the PACER program, is our Indian Arctic program. So planning, coordination and execution are scientific and logistic tasks related to Indian scientific studies in Arctic is being carried out. Long-term monitoring and the physiochemical and biochemical aspects of Arctic fjords and adjoining ocean for climate change studies are being carried out. Research on dynamics and mass budget of Arctic glaciers with various emphasis on the effect of glaciers on sea level change and on the freshwater discharge is studied. The PACER program is also there to carry out a comprehensive assessment of the flora and fauna of the Arctic and their response to anthropogenic activities. It is also planning to conduct a comparative study of life forms under extreme conditions environment from the polar regions. It will be expanding Arctic observation and science to other regions of the Arctic. So, this is the current mandate of the PACER program. So, there are various fellowships which are given to Indian researchers in the Arctic research. One is Polar Research Fellowship. The funding organization is NCPOR, that is National Center for Polar and Ocean Research. The current area of focus is Arctic and Antarctic research, climate science, glaciology and marine ecosystems. The eligibility for anybody to join is he should be an Indian researcher, scientist and students in the field of polar research. Then Indo-Norwegian Fellowship for Arctic Research. This is the funding organization is Indian and Norwegian governments through collaborative programs. Here the focus area is Arctic research, environmental science, biodiversity and climate change. Indian scientists and researchers working in collaboration with Norwegian institutes are eligible to participate in this program. Then Indian Polar Research Fellowship IPRF is there. This is by Ministry of Earth Sciences. Here the focus area is Arctic climate change, glaciology, marine research, atmospheric science. Indian PhD students, postdoctoral fellows and early career researchers are eligible to apply for this program. Visiting fellowship in polar and glaciological research is being funded by Indian National Science Academy INSA. They focus on polar and glaciological research, Arctic climate studies, ice sheet dynamics. Those who are Indian scientists, researchers and scholars working in polar science are eligible to apply. And similarly, Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute Fellowship is for interdisciplinary research between India and Canada, including Arctic studies. JRD Tata Trust Fellowship is there, which is a broad funding for Arctic and Antarctic research, including studies on climate change and ecosystems. DST Inspire Fellowship is also there for various scientific fields, including Arctic climate change and environmental science. Most of the things for Indian scientific researchers and also for students. A DBT Snow Fellowship is for the biotechnological aspects of Arctic research, including biodiversity and microbial life. This is mainly for Indian students and the early career scientists in the field of biotechnology related to Arctic. Then we have Commonwealth Fellowship where various research disciplines, including climate change and Arctic studies, are being funded. Indian researchers pursuing research in the UK, including in Arctic or environmental science, are eligible to apply for this. And what are the India's Arctic research areas? Here are the map which talks about the areas where the different research activities are being carried out. Here it is atmospheric black carbon measurement is being done here and the snow sample collection is shown here. And these are all the areas like Ny-Ålesund is the area where Indian Arctic activities are generally carried out. The major area is the atmospheric research. Here investigations into aerosols and precursor gases with respect to their radiative, physical, chemical and optical properties are studied. Studies on effects of space weather on the auroral ionosphere is also carried out under atmospheric research. In the biological studies, sea ice microbial communities are mainly studied, and in the marine research, phytoplankton, pigment, nutrients, pH, dissolved oxygen, seawater salinity and other ecological parameters are studied. Earth science and glaciological area studies on snowpack production of carbon monoxide and its diurnal variabilities are studied. These are all the major research activities being carried out in the Arctic region. So, India is expanding its research activities in the Arctic region. In 2007, it started the first Arctic research. The microbiology, atmospheric science, glaciology, geology, paleoclimatology and remote sensing was the first few areas where India started. And then it expanded in 2008 to space physics, atmospheric science, biology, micropaleontology and paleoclimatology. Then currently long-term monitoring of Kongsfjorden for climate studies are being carried out with RIS ID of 12260. Then currently monitoring of Arctic precipitation is also being carried out. Aerosol projects under Polar Net is also being pursued currently. Microbial community dynamics and responses to climate change induced variation in the high Arctic ecosystem, which is called MicroCar, is also currently being carried out. So, India is also collaborating with the Norwegian Polar Institute. In India, NCPOR and Norwegian Polar Institute are the two organizations which are undergoing collaborative work, especially in the Arctic region. This is mainly for the India scientific agenda at Svalbard. The major areas which are studied include atmospheric sciences, aerosol radiation forcing over the Arctic region by measuring aerosol optical depth spectrum and radiation, snowpack production of carbon monoxide and its diurnal variability, measurement of atmospheric electrical parameters to understand global electric circuit, space weather effects on polar ionosphere, biological science, sea ice microbial communities, that is SIMCO studies, earth science and glaciology, multi-proxy geological studies in Svalbard area, its implication to paleoclimatology, biostratigraphy and biogeography, studies on Kongsfjorden, Arctic Ocean studies or some other collaborative work that is being carried out between NCPOR and Norwegian Polar Institute. So, what are the facilities provided by the Kings Bay AS? This is the collaborator who is actually giving support to Indian Arctic activities. They provide marine laboratory. So, the Kings Bay Marine Laboratory in Ny-Ålesund, owned by and managed by Kings Bay AS. It is a common research infrastructure. It is basically an experimental laboratory for research in marine ecology, physiology and biochemistry, as well as physical sciences like oceanography, marine geology and ice physics. The laboratory contains smaller rooms with system controlled experimental variables like air and seawater temperature. It is also appropriate for experiments under ambient conditions. So, these are all the support services which are being provided in the marine laboratory. Similarly, Vextude laboratory is there. It is a terrestrial laboratory having semi-wet lab facilities. MS Tastin is the boat. It's a small work boat equipped to do smaller scientific operation, transportation and surveys in Kongsfjorden and Krossfjorden during summer time. And here are the various areas where India is currently carrying out lots of Arctic research. So, the area covered in this area within this boundary is a major area where Indian Arctic activities are being carried out. Here, black carbon concentration in the Arctic during COVID-19 pandemic was studied. Similarly, dynamics in the Arctic hail formation, intensification of Arabian Sea cyclone genesis potential and its association with warm Arctic cold Eurasia pattern, role of oceanic process in record summertime Arctic sea ice variability, biogeochemical modeling sheds a light on Kongsfjorden and Krossfjorden ecosystem variability. So, these are all the studies which are being carried out by Indian Arctic research scientists. Similarly, metagenomics of Arctic glacier forelands ecosystems are being carried out. Diversity of nitrogen fixing microbes in the high Arctic fjords, increasing temperature and glacial meltwater which affects the phytoplankton community in Kongsfjorden is being studied. Similarly, biochemical characterization of marine organic matter of the Arctic is also being carried out. Here is some Indian scientific researchers carrying out research activities in the Arctic region. So, here they are deploying the turbulence profiler in this picture, and here ice core collection is being carried out. These activities are carried out in Central Arctic in the 2022 summer.